Okay, I've got a question for you. So, when making a group, there's a lot of considerations that go into what classes should people play.
This is a
What
really good
what
one.
what roles should people play, right? And on top of what classes people play, you have someone might play a class and they maybe aren't playing a class as effectively as you think that class should be played. This is going into the topic of basically power gamers versus people who are just making a fun character or their idea of what this character would be. Right?
There's also more layers into that as
There
well.
is.
Yeah,
The
just
onion is very deep.
it's one of those fun onions where you unpeel it and you find a strawberry layer and sometimes an arsenic layer.
So let's jump to that core there and then expand out
Yeah.
and grab other peels of the onions. We'll start from the core. But we're not peeling deeper. So at that core there, is there any issue on if you have people who are power gaming versus people that aren't? Is there any issue for them to be in the same group?
The common problem is depending on skill. There's an important rule of thought in this, or not a rule of thought, but a important little detail perspective is that some people are capable of power gaming, but power gaming in a fun fashion. Like they come up with like crazy ass builds. Yes, you can do it, and I occasionally do it myself. But they'll come up with crazy build characters with some goofy gimmicks, and it turns into some ridiculous situation where they poison a black dragon and shit like that.
It happens.
Just by giving it
DC 12.
a headlock
Yes.
and then nooging it and punching it in the face repeatedly, which oddly enough was achieved all the way from a young dragon all the way up to the not the poison part, but the headlock and punch in the face all the way up to an adult dragon. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Crazy things happen when you actually use the combination table for potions
Yes.
and have all the effects double, and then also have the ability to make yourself bigger. But anyways, crazy shit aside.
So you've got power gamers and non-power gamers.
And then you have people
Put them in a party together.
and then you got players who happen to cross both categories at the same times.
Yes.
The common issue is sometimes some fun players will not make a strong character, and then some of the power gamers make an overly powerful character, and you run into the issue as a dungeon master where you have to balance your monsters and encounters to just make the power gamer have a hard time. And then all of a sudden, the fun time character gets insta-killed by an attack.
So you do run into that balancing issue as a DM, but you also run into an issue of discontent. You run into an issue where the power gamer could potentially be upset that the more casual player isn't bringing enough to the table, and that casual player is running into the issue where they were just here to have fun with friends, and now the other, not even that they're getting the crap beat out of them, that Joe Schmo over here, their friend, is outshining and trying to be the main character in their eyes. Well, they're just here to have some fun and casual RP.
Yeah. Fun time stories.
So, you run into those two issues as well as the issue for the power scaling as the DM. How do we approach this? Is this something that can find a balance?
There's multiple options. One option I found is that sometimes if you happen to have, say, like a group of players that are just ton fun time, and one or two players that really want to have intense combats, is you try to figure out, hey, is there like another dare, another group you can like shuffle the power centric player into a more power centric group so they can fit in and there's like natural floor for them to just exist with, more of a SEAL Team 6 kind of situation. And you can have the fun time group over here, or the other way around where you have like, oh, one player is just like their goofy role play, their Chuckles the Clown one kind of thing, while all the other players are way more serious.
Yeah.
If you happen to know have another group that's more of the fun time people, you can like, oh, we can get you into Thursday group, and then
it should be noted that you're pushing an agenda. I will say that
sort of sorting players by type intensity into different groups.
There is the world where the people who are pushing for fun combat and trying to make overpowered builds are the fun group, and the RP casual group is really serious about their RP.
Yeah.
That world very much exists.
Yes, there is that. And as we found, and I've seen in other groups with that, that actually works. Sometimes that doesn't work at all because some dungeon masters don't have the time and energy to play or run multiple groups in a week.
In a serious fashion.
One of the solutions we have found is that a general rule of if there's multiple games in a week, the person who is dungeon mastering in the Tuesday group, which is John, is not dungeon mastering the Saturday group or the Monday group or the Thursday group or anything like that. He's just a player in those groups.
I can run whatever game I want to run on Tuesday. And there's some other game for me to get my kicks out on the other day.
And then on Monday, like, Gage is the dungeon master, and Saturday's Nathan's turn.
On the Gage day, I've got a more power build. We haven't seen it yet, but it's coming online. Okay. And on the Saturday group, I have more fun build.
And oddly enough, your fun build spontaneously finds ways to kill everything around it.
It does do that a little bit.
It's literally an entire encounter where you basically pachinko balled the entire encounter to death.
Yes, I did.
Or lock down all the enemies with your flowers sprouting out of the ground and then blinding them.
It's a fun build.
Yeah, so it's hard to imagine an RNG character that's built all around just random rolls with some craziness somehow controlling the entire situation to the point that the Dungeon Master literally had to invent a situation where the environment starts taking on the effects and continuing on after you. But
it's crazy to think all the RNG could come to being great.
Yes.
But anyways, so obviously the groups can function together. It sounds like you would generally veer towards moving that power gamer out of the casual group or moving the casual player out of the power gamer.
That's the easy option, is sorting people into different play groups.
My route is I balance it around and assume that person wanted to shine in combat, so they're going to shine in combat. Those others are going to shine in RP.
It takes a little bit more effort for it to have like a mixed group of people who...
It does.
We kind of have to find the damage level of monsters between the people who build unoptimal characters versus the players who make really optimal characters.
Yes.
And then you have to make a point of having the social encounter in each session, as well as a little bit of adventuring, as well as some combat encounter.
Yeah, so everyone gets their own little bit of shine, depending on what their skill set is.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty in having a mixed group, really, is that you have to kind of like work in the different flavors of a game and intensities to find that nice mix.
As a player, which type of group would you rather be in? Let me separate this into 3 groups. I think 3 is a good mix. You've got your entirely casual group where you are the casual with them, of course. You've got your mixed group. I suppose it's 4 overall. You could have your casual.
You can actually break it into like 20 groups if you really wanted to.
But you could. But so you have your casual one where you're the outlier and you're the optimal. Casual where you have someone else's optimal. Then you have your competitive group where you are the non-optimal, and your competitive where you are also optimal.
Actually, I'm pretty good with all. My only problem I'm running into now is literally just having time and energy to do as many groups as we do, because
that's fair.
As work hours kind of shift going into summer, people wanting to open up the hours of the business more, and
Yes.
I'm running out of energy and time to do that.
But you would happily play in any of them.
Yeah, I'll play in the fun time group. I'll play in the SEAL Team 6 kind of group where everyone comes up with the exact plans and they gather all the resources and they like figure out how much damage we can do into a wall or how to remove parts of structures quietly.
Yeah.
Optimizing all the characters' abilities, kind of stuff like that. And then I'm okay with the mixed group where you have some
For
people
me,
do this and that. And I'm good with like the heavy social encounter groups, and I'm good with the heavy combat encounters and heavy adventure.
For me, I would lean towards. I suppose I just. There's only no. I suppose I'm good with any of them. I would. Of all of them, I would prefer the one where I'm an outlier in one way. Example, I would prefer the outlier of damage or the outlier of casual, or RP, if you will, in the sense that I would generally prefer that my character is doing their own unique thing, and I'm okay with that being the more damage or the not more damage, just their own unique thing that's different from the party or what everyone else is bringing to the table.
Yeah, the only thing that different that I care about when it comes to being in groups is like playing a different role or a different character class.
Which kind of comes down
yeah.
to what I was saying, yeah.
I don't really I'm not thinking about like optimal unoptimal. I'm just like there's no healer in this party.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick a healer class that has some healing for the party, or I'm gonna make a tanky character if there's no martial, very little martial in the party or something like that.
Are you ever annoyed if someone isn't playing optimally? Let's say they're not picking their optimal spells. Or they're not using the optimal weapon. Example, a fighter with a dagger.
I'm only bothered the moment that player complains about it.
Okay.
Or other people start complaining about it.
Okay.
So, like, in, say, like a case of a wizard that has nothing but utility spells...
Then it's problematic because...
If the wizard has, like, one or two good attack spells at level 1, and then they just upcast those...
Then that's fine.
And that's fine. If they have like one or two cantrips like that, that's fine. And all their other stuff as utility, that's fine. If they pick all offensive spells, that's fine to me. The problem is when they pick all utility spells, maybe like one
and then
or
they
two
can't do
attack spells,
anything in combat, and then are mad they can't do anything in combat.
And then they are complaining about they can't do anything in combat. And sometimes that, usually in that case with a spellcaster, it's usually someone who's new to spellcasters that are doing that.
Yes.
Because they overlooked the fact that some creatures just have immunities and resistances to certain types of damage. And if you just happen to just pick psychic damage...
Which is why you always take chromatic orbs so you can change the damage type.
Chromatic Orb is a solid universal spell for level 1.
Through 8.
Yeah.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, pretty much. And then there's a few other spells that are really nice to toss in there, like Fireball.
Absolutely, yes.
Or a few
always Fireball.
Yeah, just Fireball. Just use Fireball. Okay?
Do you have anything else to this onion?
Let's see here. A bit touch back to it. The mixing of different player styles, and we pretty much covered like optimization before versus fun. Some people are more combat oriented versus social interaction. I actually was, after I said all that and then you started talking, like I thought about it, and like, honestly I enjoy all levels, but when I really thought about it, there is a slight bias away from like super social or a lot of social, there is like I could take about almost all. I could take tons and tons of combat.
I can take tons and tons of combat.
Tons
yeah.
of
I would. I don't think I'd want to do an
adventure.
only social campaign.
Yeah, but a social campaign is in this strange little spot where you almost need to make a specific character type for it if you're thinking optimal, if you want to go that optimal route.
I've got a character in mind.
But then in a social the social campaign, if you're not playing a character that has like a fun social characteristic or a capability or classification, not classification, but ability set or traits, then you are not going to have as much fun. Of course, there is going to be some fun if you're playing like a barbarian that only has a vocabulary of 50 words in a social campaign where you get to play break the door, or the furniture kind of situation to get something. But there's only so much of that kind of campaign you can play. I don't know if you can like play like 8 years of
absolutely not.
No. And then pretty much after that you're done. I don't have a hatred towards RP solely campaigns. It's just one of those things where it's like, to me, it's slightly less enjoyable.
Yeah, I think I'd be in the same boat.
Probably the thing would be like long, drawn out, slow conversations might actually be the hardest part.
I think they'd put you to sleep.
It's actually happened.
Yeah, I think they put you to sleep. I think you'd literally fall asleep.
Yeah, I literally have done that. Where people were just, oh, he's over here now. He's dead center between us. Yeah. But anyways, there's been times when people have been just talking about what they're planning on doing, and going to stores and stuff like that, where I've just like fallen to sleep. The funniest thing is sometimes that happens as we're traveling through the woods, there's nothing happening, and then all of a sudden you have everyone roll initiative and I'm sleeping. So, and then I wake up as the enemy dies.
Happens.
Yeah. So it's happened a few times. It's just sometimes there's a drop of energy. But
everything's said and done, I think we're both in agreement. Probably not interested in RP only campaigns. I'm not judging people that do them, but it's not for me, I don't think.
It's a very specific type of very specific person who could really enjoy long social campaigns.
And then when it comes to casual group versus try hard and make powerful characters, we're both okay with either group or a mix thereof. We just want to, regardless, still bring something interesting to the table. Even if we're not like the person who's doing all of the power build. If we're the other one that we're doing something very like social, something involved.
And then there's also on the flip side from the social campaigns is that there's more there's the heavy combat campaigns. Not necessarily like people who are optimizing for them, but people who just really enjoy going into combat. That's also a ton of fun as long as you mix up the different types of combat. And then there's also some campaigns that are heavy exploration. I like those too. It's possibly in that middle zone between combat and heavy social, where a lot of adventuring, if there's nothing like no social mixed in or combat, then it gets a little boring. Same thing with the social one, but it's like in that mid zone between the two. And then there's something else on top of that. There's also the problem topic inside this situation.
Is that a Tuesday tangent?
It's still related to the whole thing. It's essentially
well, let's make it a Tuesday tangent. Is it close enough to a Tuesday tangent? We're lacking Tuesday tangents.
It might be a semi-tangent into us, but it's the situation where you have mixed groups and you have a player who is will not play in a style that fits the group. And then there's also an issue where you have some players, or there's a group style, and then there's a player who will dictate how the other players want to play.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday
And
tangent.
then
All right.
evolves into another problem.
Let's skip into that in just 1 second. Yeah, I think we're mostly on the same page in terms of group composition there, what ones we'd want to be involved in, as well as our opinions. It's fine.
Putting a pin on those two topics.
We're about to. It's totally fine if someone wants to be the power gamer or not the power gamer as far as we're concerned. We just, regardless, in our own realm, want to bring something interesting to the table for our party, whether or not we're that strong RP player or the strong combat player. We're doing our own thing is the idea. We're our own party member. Anyways, thank you for watching. This has been John and Jason. We're going to continue off into a Tuesday tangent in 8 seconds.
And thank you very much for watching. And please consider subscribing and liking the channel and sharing the videos.
We'll see you next time.
Yep.